Hey, so it's been a rough week or so. I think I only posted one kind of, you know, I guess shadowy video, but I made other videos that I'm not going to post that are just really young parts, I think, trying to just express, just pretending they're me for a while and just having their day in the sun to complain bitterly, to be angry, to rest without shame. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you can rest all you want, but if you're like, I shouldn't be resting, I shouldn't be resting, I should be resting, it's not really restful, is it? It's not free and clear. It's not you're not actually doing it. You're like your body's doing it, but sort of your spirit is stuck in a vortex, and it's not pleasant and it's not restful. So yeah, I think I think what my main fear comes down to is what if it's too good to be true that I can just live, that I can enjoy this life, enjoy what's here to enjoy, meet the rest with curiosity and instead of judgment. Like, what if I start doing that and then I realize it was all a lie, it was all a ruse, the rug gets yanked yet again. And I know that's you can say that's cowardly if you want, but I say it's more like it's not even a choice. It's shit lodged in my body. And it's not really my choice. I mean, it's not really up to me to just like, okay, set that down, scrape it off, whatever. Um, it's something I have to kind of keep surrendering to in a way, surrendering to the fact that it's there, surrendering to the fact that I don't have brute force power over it. I can't just stuff it down. I mean, it'd be rough and it'd be painful, and I would know it was there, and so like stuffing it down is pretty much done. Um, and another thing I'm noticing is that like because I don't respect myself as a real, I don't know what you call it, entity, as a real part of the universe. It's harder for me to respect others. So when I'm projecting that disrespect everywhere, it's a mess. I can kind of override that a lot of the time, but then when kind of push comes to shove and I'm dysregulated or something, then it's like back to the default of um, everyone's a piece of crap like me, you know? Um, and I think Angela was quoting Adyashanti when he said, you know, your trauma is like a big pot of soup, and once you've eaten it, you think it's gone, and then you look and there's a bunch of crap still burned, stuck to the bottom of it. And that's what this feels like. It just feels like it feels so close and so old that it just feels like me. I just feel like this is who I really am. This is the bottom layer. Not realizing there's a clean pot somewhere under there. I mean, if there is, almost by definition, I haven't really seen it, maybe in glimpses or visions, but I haven't felt clean in this body as far as just free to exist. And then lately, I've been watching a gathering of indigenous healers from all over the world online. And, a lot of them have Western accents because they've been forcibly integrated into, I mean, to some extent, into an alien culture that has in some ways become their own culture too. Some of them have mixed heritage, and so it's like they don't seem, well, none of them at this point seem like alien or and human or different um, to me. But the ones that are maybe a little bit, I don't want to say goofy. That's how I talk about myself. But they're not some perfect polished, you know, um, like you sometimes hear uh, from native people back in the day, like you read their words, and their words are so far removed from a Western mentality that I feel like I might be able to get the gist of them, but I mean, I don't know to what extent exactly. And the point is, when they sound kind of like me in some ways, and not not that measured, elegant, metaphorically rich language that you often hear from indigenous people from before they were forcibly assimilated. So I can really see myself in them even more. And it's kind of comforting that they can still be quite, I mean, somebody that my heart instinctively respects and likes, even though they're not some rarefied thing that's so different from me. And not only that, but the way that they're forgiving of the people who just massacred and forcibly assimilated them, saying, where did their trauma come from? Their trauma came from a Europe that went through the bubonic plague, that burned wise women and called them witches, that was crowded, disease ridden, and brainwashed in various ways. And they took, I mean, kids were, watched the wise women being burned. What does that do to a little kid's soul? So they came with their own barbarism, their own trauma, and like their space, their stuff, we can take it. That was just their mentality. Not only for themselves, but for their nation, which all the different nations were going out grabbing stuff and competing with each other. And like, what if we don't get enough stuff? Then the British can, invade the Spanish, and the Germans can conquer whatever. And in a way, they reached saturation earlier than other locations on the earth. And one thing I learned is that the alphabet, the Celtic alphabet, is based on different types of trees. And she kind of, one of the speakers derided English as kind of a pigeon language, like a utilitarian kind of ugly mess. And when you learn a proper language, even a few words, your conception of the world can change considerably. And that's how I felt in Palestine for sure. But that kind of compassion for the people who committed genocide against them and still often treat them badly, it's very, very humbling. And something in me knows that it's really the best anyone can do. And that's tough because it's not brute force power. It's not a guarantee. It's not a hammer, it's just the sun coming out. But you can't force the guy to take off his coat, Maybe he'll hold on to it out of spite. You never know what humans are going to do. Very often you're as nice as you can possibly be to them and they just slit your throat anyway. But the alternative is to completely give in to power dynamics until the end of time. And then even if you sort of beat them for a while, they'll gather power and they'll beat you. One way or another, one time or another. If there's no coming together, there's no mutual humanization, then it's always us versus them, and it's always who's got the bigger, the bigger guns, and sooner or later the whole world goes boom one way or another. Gaza's showing us what that looks like. Just fucking off the fucking chain. When that impulse goes off the chain, that's what it looks like. And when they were doing the opening prayer, it was so affecting because it wasn't trying to be anything. It wasn't trying to live up to any Western expectations of what a native prayer is like. It was so simple, so genuine, so clear in a way that they're connected to something. They don't know what it is. I mean, maybe some do, I don't know. But they kind of speak of this mystery of existence and just the wonder of it. And it's so tragic that people who could live like that were so often just massacred by people who didn't see the value in actual life, only in acquisition, wishing for more wishes endlessly. And maybe our species is such that whoever got there first, they were just going to spread over the world and cause all this chaos, and just happen to be the Europeans. But it's really like at times I was just weeping, sober, totally sober. Um, and I really like when I can do that. I feel like it melts a little bit off of the armor. And I was thinking, like, if I could let all of their suffering, because they told some pretty horrifying stories of colonialism and its aftermath and the trauma they still carry. And I remember thinking, like, if I could take all of the suffering of the world and have it funnel through me, if that could actually help anyone, I'd do it in a minute. I don't care what it felt like. And I mean, maybe that's something between a savior complex and a control freak thing. Like, I need to be the one to heal everybody. I need to be the one to feel it all, so that I know exactly how bad it is and exactly what's happening to it. And then, oh, guess what? Everyone's gonna be fine and we'll all be safe. That's the dream, huh? That I could somehow fix and save everybody just by sacrificing myself, just by hurting myself. Even if I got no credit, by the way, I don't care about credit. That's not what it's about. Anyway, and then I did breath work this evening, and I'm so glad I did it. And I took like a little BB worth of cannabis gummy before I went, a microdose basically. And and I've been having trouble doing breath work for a long time. I had some really incredible experiences, and then after that, it's like I just started, like, I'd get kind of tired of breathing, and I'd hold my breath for a while, and then I'd lose it, and then I'd get tired of breathing for a while, and then I'd hold my breath, and then I'd lose it, and then it was like I just couldn't really get into the rhythm. Um, but tonight I finally did again, and I also kind of, often when I'm doing it, because it's kind of active. So, like, kind of my lazy parts are like, can somebody else do this? And I can just sort of lay back and enjoy the show. Of course, at some point, often it stops feeling like effort and it can feel like your body's breathing by itself. But to get to that point can be, that's the work. Um, but finally, this time, I got into the kind of, the first, the faint, dark, kind of psychedelic images on the back of my eyelids. And then the sense of, like, my body kind of melting into itself. So there was no real meaningful separation between my hands and my legs, or wherever my hands were. And the energy kind of spiking and undulating. And, often I'm like, oh, what should I do? Should I look at my third eye? Should uh, I don't know, figuring out how do I manage this experience. And instead, this time it was like, what do I feel like doing? What actually feels like what should be happening right now? And so maybe it would be breathing in my belly, maybe it would be breathing on my chest, maybe it would be breathing long in and out, maybe breathing, short in and out, and maybe be breathing right to right here. Um, maybe it'd be kind of like sinking back behind all of it and just kind of observing. But anyway, after a while, and it went really quickly, but after a while, I could feel like my ancestors were around me. And it reminded me of a story that somebody had just told about how, a young Native woman, she went to Stanford, by the way, as it happens, and she got into like substances and shoplifting and different things and addiction. And when her elders learned of it, they didn't say like, how could you? Why isn't your head on straight? You should go to jail. Whatever. It was like, oh, we're sorry. We're sorry that you went through things in your life that made it difficult for you to. Um, I guess that made it easy for you to fall into this. Like you had drugs around you when you were a kid, and nobody helped you the way you needed to be helped, and we're sorry. And that, with that kind of intervention of pure compassion and no judgment, she she's been sober since then and is, apparently doing amazing things with her life. So, maybe inspired by that, I felt like elders, ancestors were around me. And, when my mind would wander, they wouldn't be like, shut your mind off, goofy. It'd be like, come back, daughter, come back. Very, very gently. And I'd be like, oh yeah, 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 back, back to the back to the here and now, back to the body, back to the sensations, back to not trying to manage this, not leaping into the future. Be right here, right here, right here. With my ancestors. Take it seriously. And I'd say maybe, well, I got a glimpse of when I was a toddler and just wandering around the house and just checking in drawers, you know, um, just like this, like it was such a non-dual kind of experience. It was like a first person game, I could see the images, the shapes, the colors, the this, that. I'd try to make sense of it. I'd pull something out and see what's inside. Um, it was just pure exploration. No agenda other than exploration itself, Um, and it was like, can I live like that? Can I live like that now? Because that finally felt like what Angelo says is you'll feel like you remember. You'll feel like it's something that you felt before, or you've seen before, or you experienced before, like many, 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 many years ago. And that I was like, yeah, that wonder at just the simplest things. What's here? What's around that corner? What's under here? What's in there? taste, touch, smell, sound. Bang this against that. You know, living like that and having kind of the mind as a resource too, without it like trying to dominate you, you know? And, you know, I said to my ancestors, maybe this is fake. You know, this shield, this stuff in my body that's clenched. That's what feels real at this point. You know, you guys, this all feels like a fantasy. It feels like it's too good to be true. It's gonna be, yeah. I mean, somebody's gonna hurt me. Somebody's gonna remind me that actually this is worthless. The only thing that matters is getting approval from someone, or trying to trying not to constantly get their disapproval, because that it just kills your soul after a while. Everything you do is wrong. Everything you feel is wrong. And then I had images flash into my mind of one of Ollie's little friends, kind of wondering what because I gave the kids mochi ice cream, and she was like, "Why does the ice cream taste like this?" And she, you know, she'd never had mochi before, and so I at the time I wanted to kind of dismiss her, like, just eat it, it's fine, it's good, you know. Um, but you know, she seemed genuinely kind of distressed, and she had every right not to want to eat that weird, papery, goopy stuff, you know, that she never had before. It was kind of weird the first time I tried it, right? Um, so I thought about her, and I got sort of activated here of all the times I wasn't taken seriously, all the times I was sort of waved off, shut down. Your feelings don't matter. And I felt, you know, I mean, some guilt for the fact that I kind of projected that onto somebody else, but more so just sort of compassion for both of us. And then I thought of Ollie and how devastated he was when he kind of broke his Lego plane and his Baba was in a meeting, so his Baba couldn't immediately put his plane back together for him. And, you know, of course, I wanted to be like, dude, have some perspective, Jesus. It's not a time sensitive thing. He's going to be out before you know it. Um, but for Ollie, for whatever reason, it was a big deal. And, you know, he's allowed to feel whatever he feels. I mean, he should be. And so I was feeling sort of that in my own chest and compassion for him for that. And it's all kind of still here, which, I mean, I'm not supposed to have an agenda about it. I'm not supposed to be trying to get rid of it, you know? Um, part of me definitely wants it to just kind of go back where it came from. But, you know, took decades. I mean, it's been there for decades. So expecting it to just be like, uh, and it could be actually quite destabilizing if it all goes too quickly. Maybe, who knows? Um, but you know, I have a sense that this is the really heavy burden I've always been carrying. That that's kept me kind of down. Or like I said, like this is the basement floor. This is it. This is the real deal. The place I'm afraid to fall into. The place I desperately scramble to tread water above it. When below it, apparently, is true freedom. But it's a whole process. But yeah, I could finally, like I say, I've been identifying with it, and finally, in this sort of breathwork state, I could see that it's just like these pieces of hard plastic. It's not, they're here, but they're not me. Who am I? I have no idea. And yeah, when I get into certain social situations, especially, I can feel this like activate again and make it maybe a little bit hard to breathe or bounces me up in my head or whatever. But I also things have since then been a little more non-dual, a little more curious, a little more like I'm carrying a sack of rocks. I am not, in fact, a sack of rocks. And I kind of, eventually, perhaps, we'll have a sack of rock ectomy, but don't know exactly when or how. Not up to me. Yeah, I will. I'll take a yeah. I'll take a break now. I made a voice recording of just after the breath session. If there's more, then I'll add a clip to the end of this. Otherwise, cheers. Okay, just a few things to throw on top of the the video. One was remembering something that I don't know. It felt like some kind of curse, kind of floating above my heart space. Not above as in like here, but above as in like when I was lying down, it was above the heart space. But who knows if it was a curse or just a something else. But yeah, my heart space tends to be pretty heavy, so that could have been the association that was made. Another thing was something like a little bullet-like thing came out of my neck to the right, and I have no idea where that thing went or what it was. I hope I didn't hit anyone. Um, but yeah, another thing my ancestors let me do was sit and feel times I felt so awkward and alone and cast out in college and after college. Uh, and those are feelings I suppressed because I didn't want to feel that. And it was a recurring thing, and it always touches into that sort of original being cast out. So it was always painful, and I was always suppressed. I kept running into that issue, and then I kept suppressing it. So there's a lot in there, it seems. And again, my ancestors reminded me that I'm not those burdens. I can be someone worthwhile. I can be someone my ancestors can sit with and care about. And then I said to them, no, 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 I'm just making this up. It's fake. It's wishful thinking. And they let me say that. They let me say whatever I wanted. Didn't try to argue. Just their presence was the argument, I guess. But was I making it up? Was I making up the sensations, the energy craziness during the breath work? That vision, that sense of the ancestors being there, maybe it was meaningful for that moment, and now it's not happening. And now, I mean, I'm talking about it, but it's like something totally different is happening now. So I don't know. Existence is so weird, and I'm never going to understand it. But meanwhile, I'm just trying to exist without feeling so heavy, so much pain, and so much shame about the burdens. Uh, because haven't I worked on this forever? And who am I to have so much trauma? And haven't I dealt with those questions 1,000 times that I'm just saying again now? Why can't I just live? What am I afraid of? I'm afraid just living isn't really real? But what do I think is real? And why do I believe that's real? It's like I was saying to my ancestors, this feels real, this feels solid, heavy, safe, even though it's miserable. And I know better than that, I do. But here we are. Still there. Ache. Вот так, as they say in Russian. Um, and then I had a thought like, what if I'm some kind of super healer and I'm having such a hard time precisely because I'm taking all these deep ancestral traumas or even other people's traumas, and that's why it's so hard, right? And it's like if I knew that was true, I wouldn't mind the pain so much. But it's funny that a story would change the context of the experience, but it wouldn't change the actual experience. Um, and even if I am a superhero, a hero, a super healer, I'm never going to know that, probably. I mean, who know? How does anyone know anything, right? Um, I certainly couldn't claim any credit if that were the case. I mean, I don't even know if I am or not. So, and if I am, I didn't choose it that I know of or do anything to deserve it. And I have no idea what the impact of it might be, if any. So I'm back to just trying to exist without being miserable. You'd think it wouldn't be so hard.